Whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people.
Whose car are we going to take?
Today. This is the Nikki Medoro Show. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to Kim and all of you for being here yesterday for Kim's jam-packed show. I was up at KCBS, and yeah, so it was a fun time up there. I listened to the show yesterday. It was a fun show here. I love the fact, Kim, that you were able to get Mark Toney on from Turn. Mm-hmm. I will be speaking with Loretta Lynch. It'll be airing on the show on Tuesday. Also, I swear to God, do you guys see that commercial? Does it piss anybody else off? I'm just going to say this. That commercial of the woman with the hearing aid, and PG&E gave her a backup freaking battery for her hearing aid. I'm not hating on the woman, but I'm like, screw you, PG&E. Is this your outreach? We're not that bad. We gave this poor woman a backup battery for her hearing aid. It makes my blood boil. And I know that this is the time of year where we're supposed to be all nice, but screw PG&E. I'm so aggravated by the whole thing. So great interview with Mark. I love the idea of caps, right? I mean, they just can't get a blank check every single freaking time they want to raise our rates. It's ridiculous. So yeah.
Did you hear what he said? He said every time they have a rate increase, there's another one on the table behind it just waiting.
Yeah. I love the ink's not even dry, and all of a sudden they're asking for something else. Yeah. And it's like, are you? Yeah. And it feels like we're helpless. Look, in any other business, if you don't like what a company is charging you, you can leave and still get the product somewhere else. That's right. Competition. And PG&E has this monopoly, and I don't know why I get so angry, but I do, because this is a monthly thing that we deal with. I mean, I'm freezing my ass off in my house. I mean, I had this daydream, Kim, that I was surrounded by icicles, and I was in an igloo, and I checked the mail, and it's $500. And I'm like, screw you, right? It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating, and it's their fault. I listened to your interview, and then I was also listening to, I forget what channel, maybe ABC7, the evening before, and they were interviewing a guy from San Jose, and he's like, how do they keep raising the rates? How are we going to continue to afford it? People are on fixed income. I mean, thankfully, we're still working. Not like we get more money and we're getting some sort of raise, but having a cap tied to the cost of living, or tied to the the increase that people are getting on Social Security, you're going to make older people on a fixed income freeze to death. Or die of heat stroke because they can't afford to turn on their AC and they can't afford to turn on their heater. So again, I love that you had Mark on. Great interview, a bunch of great interviews yesterday. I love the lady, the expert in San Francisco, talking about all of that. But yeah, I just feel like we could talk about this every single day. And then I still end the conversations feeling pretty helpless, though. I feel like we're so united in our outrage, and yet it feels. And that's why I like talking to Loretta Lynch, because obviously, she tells us specifically, even though I wrote my letter to the governor, right? I did all that. The last time she was on, she was urging us about the trailer bills and all sorts of stuff. So she's going to bring us up to speed next week, and we'll see what happens. So that was a great conversation. Now, I saw this morning, and it kind of reminded me sort of about PG&E, and people were on Twitter, X, I think last week or the week before, when this was about to be announced. And they're like, this is what Biden chooses to focus on. And it is getting rid of those junk fees. Now, I don't know about you, but yes, these things matter. Similar to getting a hold of our PG&E bill, similar to not feeling like we're locked into something because there's no other option. This is an issue that I think people should and do care about. So the announcement yesterday by the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, said they would impose new restrictions on the cable and satellite industry to fight junk fees. The new rules make it basically so you don't have to pay early termination fees, for instance, if you want to switch cable companies, which they always freaking do, right? I want to leave DirecTV, for instance, and I want to go to whatever, Comcast, or I just want to end it. I want to cut the cord. Well, before you'd have to pay this stupid fee if you just signed a contract a couple months ago. And then they're getting rid of that. That gives you the freedom to make a consumer choice. Similar, I will say, and I remember when this happened, similar to being able to keep your cell phone number. Remember, I don't know how many of you remember, but back in the day when cell phones were coming out, if you wanted to switch providers, you lost your phone number. So that kept people locked into their cell phone company, because how many people have your phone number? How many people have to contact to tell them, oh, I changed my phone number?
Yeah, it seemed like too big of a hurdle.
Yeah, they stopped it because it basically locked you in. Even if you weren't getting the best rate, you didn't like the service, you didn't like the company. Well, you like that phone number, don't you? You don't want to go through all the pain of contacting everybody in your contact list with your new phone number. That's a pain in the ass. So yeah, I think that these are the sorts of things that it doesn't seem huge, but it is huge. It is very, very huge. So I'm glad that President Biden has done something like this. Now, the push follows a White House executive order back in 2021, encouraging the entire federal government to find ways to boost competition across the economy. And I know that it's California and PG&E isn't across the United States, but son of a bitch, that should happen with PG&E as well. We need competition. And I'm not talking about solar necessarily only, because it doesn't work for everybody. And they're trying to screw us with the solar too. I just wish we can just cut the cord with PG&E. I mean, the company is awful, just awful. I mean, I'm so cold, Kim. Hold on.
They've shown that they don't deserve our trust.
No, we cannot trust them. We cannot trust them. We cannot trust their shareholders. But I'm so cold that after the show, every day after the show, you know what I do? Because of the way the sun sets or rises around my house, the warmest spot, I feel like a dog, because Nugget and I do the same thing. I get up and I walk to my back sliding glass door, because it's the only place where the sun beats into my house. And I sit there on my phone, like prepping for the next show, sending out emails and everything, because it is the warmest free spot in my house. I try to open up my windows and everything, and I don't mind doing that. That's, being efficient and those sorts of things, but I shouldn't have to do that so the icicles get off my hands and toes. Screw PG&E. Pisses me off.
Well, I'm thinking to myself,
Self.
Okay, you've got a PG&E bill that's going to increase by 13-ish%.
Right.
What are you going to cut? All right, I can get rid of HBO Max. One thing
I just got rid of Peacock, which I was kind of sad about, but whatever.
Well, you know what?
It was like $11-12. I was like, screw that. I'm not.
I don't get rid of it all. I mean, you don't watch enough TV that you can justify all these things. So
right.
I mean, that's the way I feel. So I thought, all right, if I got this increase coming in January, I'm going to try to figure it out. Now, we're lucky in the world that we have something to cut. There are people that have nothing to cut, that they were bare bones already.
Exactly.
And
they're still getting this freaking bill.
Yes. So, maybe they don't even have streaming. Maybe, they're lucky if they have a TV, and now they have to do this. I know that PG&E has plans for people that are extremely poor, that
how many of us don't fit
for the
into
universal
that?
lifeline or whatever. But it's too much. It's too much, and you've pissed us off. And I don't know how much it takes for us to get so pissed off that we're ready to just say, that's enough.
Well, we can't do that. I mean, unless you want to turn off the lights and heat in your house, how do you protest PG&E? Honestly, I mean, usually it's the almighty dollar. Okay, PG&E doesn't get my business anymore. There is nowhere else to go. And that's the problem.
We went around the house unplugging stuff. Now, does it take a lot of energy to keep things plugged in? Toaster oven, unplugged. Mixer, unplugged. We're now unplugging things that we
don't unplug your computer, though. It always screws it up. I do that all the time. I've done that, and I was like, all my stuff got taken down.
But there are like appliances in the kitchen other than the refrigerator that just kind of stay plugged in or whatever. Yeah. I don't know how much that costs, or if that's even, it's like a negligible 2 cents a day kind of thing. Any red penny that I have to give PG&E, I'm pissed off about. So I'm unplugging.
Are you, Stephen, are you saying that you work for PG&E? Are you saying you work for PG&E? He says, when I graduated, I went to work for PG&A. I'm like, I'm hoping you'll see a PG&E, and then you could send them a message and give them a vulgar gesture from me. Yeah, and I get it, Brian. I blame PG&E for this cold that I can't seem to shake. I do, because I can't seem to raise my heat up any longer than I did. And I saw an earlier comment. We will be getting to the Eric Swalwell comment in just a moment. I find it extremely hilarious about, the fact that they're starting this impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Again, I was in San Francisco yesterday at work and watching Hunter Biden's press conference. It boggles my mind. One, the hypocrisy, right? The hypocrisy that you have someone like Jim Jordan who never responded to his subpoena, and other Republicans calling out Hunter Biden. Oh, you're not responding to the subpoena. He literally will testify. He wants to do it publicly. Why would you not want that, right? Why would you not want that? It's not as if he does not want to do it at all, Jim Jordan. So yeah, it's really, it's so annoying.
Especially if someone is accusing you of manipulating their words.
Exactly.
Oh, I would think to myself, oh, you are thinking that we manipulated your words and we weren't telling the truth. Absolutely, let's do it in public.
Exactly.
Happy to do that. Yeah.
But why?
No.
Why wouldn't they?
What they said? You don't tell us how this is going to be done. We tell you how this is going to be done.
I mean, they're just full of. It's just, again, hypocrisy on top of hypocrisy on top of. Oh, we're going to hold people accountable. Hold your orange Jesus accountable. How about that? How about that? All right, so we're going to get to that. We have a former KGO colleague, you guys, coming on the show in the second part of the show. Kristen Haynes, a reporter, great reporter that worked with us for years at KGO. I actually worked for her very briefly in Sacramento. We both worked at KFBK in Sacramento. I think she came to KFBK when I was on maternity leave. And then right when I came back, we worked together for a few months. And then I think she got the job at KGO because she went to KGO before I did. And then I finished kind of my maternity leave, and then I ended up going to KGO. And so she's going to come on. And I don't know how many of you follow Kristen Haynes. She has this website. It's called thewaywardhome.com that documents her nomadic living. I don't know a better way of putting it. She lives in her RV van and boat with her and her boyfriend, and they sail. It's one of those lives, Kim, where I'm like, could I do this? And that's why I'm very excited to talk to Kristen, because the romantic, adventurous side of me says, I would totally do that. The realistic part of me is like, there's no way in hell I think I could live like that. And so I just want to dig deep with Kristen and hear about her life, the ups, the downs, the greats, the not so greats. And so that's coming up in the second part of the show. And I'm really, really excited to talk to her.
I am too, because I've missed her, and it will be great to see her. But she has a different lifestyle than we do. I mean,
so
try doing that with a couple kids you're packing around.
She also documents it like online. So she has a podcast. I don't know if she has a podcast, but she does social media, and she does have her blog. So I mean, finding we know our technical, we're in a house, and she still does that. But yeah, adding kids to the mix.
No. And you would have to homeschool on the high seas.
I know.
I don't know how you would pull that off.
Yeah, I definitely think not having kids, it makes it easier. It just does. Kids make everything more difficult in a good and a bad way. It's two other people or one other person. It has to be, difficult. But yeah, so I'm really excited to see her and hear all about her life. She does all these interviews. If you've ever considered van living, boat living, this nomadic lifestyle, you will definitely want to tune in for this conversation. We will get to a topic I teased last time, not yesterday, the day before, about putting out. And I don't know if you saw this, and I'm not going to say names. Okay. And Kim, we could talk about it off air. And the reason why I'm not going to say the name online is because this person has been cyberbullied. And I just read a Medium post that the daughter of a former colleague had posted about cyberbullying and how she's been a huge victim of cyberbullying. And it kind of ties into a lighter topic that I was going to talk about a couple of days ago, which is when is too early to, I'm just going to put out on a date. Like, and is it different for men versus women, even though in a heterosexual normative kind of way, I'm going to talk about men versus women, although I will throw in men and women and women. Does it add a different kind of layer of acceptance in society. Let's put it that way. Okay. And the reason why, and again, I'm not going to get into our colleagues, but she was cyber bullied, for doing something that the other person was also very much a part of, right? And kind of the double standard that always seems to exist when we talk about having sex, with someone that you're not married to, right? Who gets the brunt of that? And it's always the woman. It's always the woman. A guy could say, yeah, I scored last night and get a high five. If a woman says that too loudly in the wrong company, she gets shamed for it. And so we're going to talk about that because there was a kind of influencer reality TV star that basically was saying the opposite. She's like, you know what, girls, ladies, put out. If you want to, do it. And she was vilified for it. And I don't understand why, but we'll get into that as well. We have a bunch of stuff that I hope to get into, but I promised that we would talk about that last time because I teased it last time and I didn't get to it. So before we get to any of that and Kim's headlines, I wish Nikki a warm house coat, flannel jammies, and some nice slippers for Christmas. Thank you. I got a nice warm robe for my birthday in October. But yeah, you can never go wrong with giving me warm things, especially if they're fuzzy. I love it. Katie says, I'm anxious to hear the talk with Kristen. I love the videos about tiny houses and alternative home styles. Yes, I'm so excited that she's going to be on. I don't know if I could do it, though. We'll see. We'll see how she describes it. I want to know all about her life. I'm so excited about it. Okay, so click the thumbs up button before we get to some headlines. It helps the show. The super chat is also live, and we already have some donations. Harry came in with a $5 donation.
Hey.
And before the show, Kim, Janet, I believe I'm going to go all the way to the top. Janet also gave us a $5 donation.
Yay.
A little something for before making my drive to Petaluma. Kim, I bought
She's going to be here today?
Oh,
that's so nice.
To meet for a moment. So Janet, reach out to Kim.
Janet, I will email you. I didn't realize you were coming today. I will email you. That's awesome.
So there you go. Thank you for the donation to the super chat. You guys are awesome. And so if you want to give us a super sticker, a super comment, we'll read it live if it's during the live part of the show. And we appreciate each and every dollar you guys give to help keep this show going. And please, before the end of the year, sign up to be an official Medorable. Go to thenikkimedoroshow.com. Sign up on our Patreon. We're 100% crowdfunded. We depend on you to keep the show going. We also have PayPal. Go to paypal.com. Put in the email address after you hit the send button, thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. We have merch you can do. My list of favorite things is up. And so please, in any way that you can, support the show so we can continue to do it. All right, let's do some headlines. I'll talk about Eric Swalwell. I'll play you that clip that just had me cracking up after Kim's headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
House Republicans have indeed voted to authorize an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Republicans argued the president benefited from foreign business dealings of his son, Hunter Biden. The president has always maintained he had nothing to do with his son's business. An impeachment inquiry is a step toward potential impeachment. We'll see how this plays out.
The thing is this is what I hope. Okay, I'll say this. I'm going to try to be fair. If they have evidence, present it. If they have evidence, present it. But what I
Wouldn't
hope
they have already?
Thank you. Exactly. Obviously. But if they don't, they're just making fools of themselves. I think they just want bad headlines to continue into to 2024 during this presidential election. But at some point, you got to S or get off the pot. Where is the evidence? That was the problem with Trump. All of his, I'm coming out with evidence that will prove election fraud soon.
Where is it?
When? We're almost in the next presidential election, dude. And you still haven't presented it. At some point, they're idiots.
Here's the problem is they say Biden and impeachment in the same sentence long enough and
right.
And with enough fervor, and people actually start to believe this crap.
Yeah.
I think there should be some penalty where if you don't have evidence, if you don't have real legitimate evidence where there's a need to look into it further, then you should be penalized.
Right.
If there really is no there and you're just doing a political witch hunt, then there needs to be a penalty for Republicans.
But this is the problem that's been exposed in recent years is who punishes you? I mean, we're talking about lawmakers here. We're talking about lawmakers that are going to start saying, I have the freedom of speech. I can believe what I want to believe. It's not against the law to say things. Those sorts of things. I feel like in the past, self-contained or constrained to not lie publicly because there was this public shaming. Not that we were going to be thrown in jail, right? But that, like, you just didn't do that because you'd be humiliated and nobody would believe you. Now it seems, after stupid orange Jesus president, just keep lying. And soon your lie will become some people's truth. And if enough of them share it, it'll just become standard practice. I mean, there are intelligent people in other aspects of their lives, intelligent people I know, that still think that there was that the election was stolen from Trump because he said it so many times. Yeah. There's questions. Where? There's been no evidence. Dozens and dozens of lawsuits, a big fat goose egg, nothing. And yet they still, because they set it up. And that's the problem, is there was no true consequence besides public shaming.
You heard in the January 6th testimony that, one of the folks in Arizona testified, Giuliani said, we don't need it to be true. All we need to do is you to create enough chaos that we can slide in and ask the question. That's all we need.
Exactly. They knew they were lying. Okay, let me just play the Swalwell clip since we're talking about this right now. And it's so very funny. So this is Eric Swalwell. Again, President Biden, they're going to continue with this impeachment inquiry. And Eric Swalwell is obviously very upset about this, Bay Area congressman. And this is what he said about what's going to be revealed through this impeachment inquiry. Here we go.
This impeachment is a continuation of the insurrection that came here on January 6th. This gang has never accepted Joe Biden as the president. And the architect of the idea that you could overturn the election is the current Speaker of the House. And then Donald Trump sent that violent mob here. It didn't work. And so now we're here, where they're going to try and use this House to overturn the election through this inquiry. The problem is they have zero evidence. The only crime is that Joe Biden blew out Donald Trump in the 2020 election. And that's a problem because this place is the largest law firm in D.C. with these lawyers working on behalf of just one client, Donald Trump, at the expense of everything else that matters. But I want to give James Comer some credit because after 50,000 pages of depositions and secret hearings and closed hearings, I think if we give him enough time, he's going to prove that Hunter Biden is Joe Biden's son. And I yield back.
And that's really, honestly, even though it's funny and it sounds like a joke, that's literally their case. That because Hunter Biden, obviously he's facing all these charges. He's facing 17 years in prison or whatever. Because Hunter Biden is Joe Biden's son, Joe Biden is guilty. Joe Biden is guilty. And that's just not how things work. I mean, you can have problematic people in your family, and that doesn't mean that whatever wrongdoing they do, you're somehow involved. And nepotism, Trumpers, exists. It does. I mean, if you want to say, how... That's what happened.
Wait, you're muted, and I don't know why.
What happened with my microphone for a second? I was saying nepotism exists, and if you're asked by a rich person, like a Trumper, has this amazing job, and then you look at their parents, they're like, oh, that's why. That's how the world, unfortunately, works for a lot of people in a lot of circles. That doesn't make Joe Biden guilty of what Hunter Biden does. Joe Biden answering the phone for his son is not proof of guilt.
Yeah.
There has to be more there. And if there is more there, Republicans, show it. I'm totally open to it. I will say this. I'm totally open. If you want to prove that the Biden family is this criminal family, fine, prove it. I mean, a hell of a lot easier to prove the Trumpers are, but whatever. Just prove it. All I ask is for evidence, not innuendo. Not innuendo, not circumstantial. Well, he answered the form, so that must mean no. If you can prove it, fine. But if you can't, shut the hell up. I'm over it. But yeah, I just love the fact that they're going to spend all this money and they're basically just going to say and prove that Hunter Biden is Joe Biden's son. And that doesn't prove anything. So
it's wasteful. And that's what Joe Biden said yesterday. They're a time-wasting bunch of liars. And they can't do anything.
Right.
They can't do anything. They can't get together and do anything except this impeachment vote.
Right. Now, John, and I always appreciate, John, you reach out here and you reach out on Facebook. John asks That's not the issue. What services was Hunter, and I love the fact that you put Hunter's name and not Joe Biden. What services was Hunter to provide for whatever money he did? Okay, again, something that needs to be proven. Okay, Hunter. Like, Hunter could make any sort of claims that he wants to. Did he do it? Is there evidence that he did anything like that? And again, we're talking about Hunter Biden, not vice president, not current president.
Last time I checked, Hunter is not impeachable. Is that right?
Yeah, you know, that's the point, John, is that they're trying to make the leap that because Hunter Biden may or may not have done something illegal, right? The gun charges, whatever, that implicates Joe Biden. Look, Hunter Biden took drugs. He was, having sex in hotel rooms, whatever. Joe Biden did not. So unless you want to hold Joe Biden accountable for the alleged crimes of his son, there's no case. That's the problem. They're taking somebody that has a drug problem, that has had mental health issues, and they're vilifying him on the public stage. And I think and again, if you can prove that Hunter Biden, committed all these crimes, then he should do time. I'm not saying that, but it's a big stretch to go from Hunter to Joe. It just is.
Yeah. Nope. No,
but prove it. Again, prove it. That's all I'm saying. Prove it.
The Israel-Hamas war still, of course, raging in the Gaza Strip. The White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with Israeli officials today as tensions between the U.S. and Israel are now reaching new highs. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pushing back against some criticism of his country's war against Hamas yesterday, saying they will continue fighting until Israel reaches victory and nothing less. A bill authorizing a record $886 billion in annual military spending is heading to President Biden's desk. The House passed the National Defense Authorization Act this morning after it cleared the Senate on Wednesday. This legislation includes a pay raise for service members, procurement of new weapons and missile defense systems, and other national security priorities as well. Finally, they got something done. Look at that. Rudy Giuliani won't be testifying in his defamation trial over his spreading conspiracy theories about 2 Georgia election workers after the 2020 election. He kind of testified right outside the courthouse yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's ridiculous. This is another guy that's absolutely ridiculous, and his mouth is going to get him in trouble.
A spokesperson for Donald Trump's former attorney, Rudy Giuliani's spokesperson, says, he's not testifying. The election workers, Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss, gave emotional testimony, though, over 2 days about how Giuliani's lies affected their lives and damaged their reputations. He doubled down. He went outside the courthouse and said, "Everything I said is true." Again, he said this.
I know. I mean, there needs to be consequences. I think he's trying to play the fact of like, well, what I said was true, and it's not my fault that there's some nutbags that like doxed him and attacked him and threatened him. That's not my fault. There's consequences if you incite something to happen to innocent people, dumbass.
Indeed. Flags all across Connecticut are flying at half-staff today to mark the 11th anniversary of the Sandy Hook school massacre. 11 years.
11 years.
I can still remember crying in a newsroom when that happened.
I can still remember all that. The moment I saw it, and we talk about this every time. I remember the image of the kids being walked out, and it had scrolled past it because I didn't know what I was reading. I was just kind of checking the news, and I saw these kids being, walked out, and then I stopped and I went back, and when I saw, it's still like. Yeah, it's devastating. 11 years. Think about how old those kids would be. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, they'd be like our kids' age, Kim.
Yeah. It was on this date in 2012 that 20 children ages 6 through 8 were killed, plus 6 educators at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown. Most of the children's classmates are now seniors, and public schools in Newton are operating now on a 3-hour delay to give students time to reflect on what happened there today.
And then asshat Alex Jones himself is acting like a Rudy Giuliani and saying, I apologize. I don't know why I'm still facing this lawsuit. You want to take all my money away from me. You're an ass. Total ass. And God, God, I just, it sucks that sometimes you just have to wait for people to die to get their comeuppance. I swear, it's Alex Jones and the people like that just used this incredible tragedy and then compounded it by telling these parents. I can't even imagine being a parent, losing my child in this horrific way, unimaginable, horrific way, unimaginable. And then this guy has people calling my house, coming to my house, telling me my child was still alive. Like, I don't know why Alex Jones is able to breathe air outside of a prison for what he's done. I really don't.
And now he's got his public platform back on X.
On X, yeah.
He's ready to go.
Mean, exactly. It's just it blows my mind what some people think is allowable in society. It boggles my mind.
Well, for years, methamphetamine was the illicit drug that led to the most overdose deaths in Los Angeles County, but there's a new number one killer.
Fentanyl.
This is not the distinction that you want, but yes, for the first time, fentanyl accounted for more overdose deaths than any other drug. That, according to the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, the synthetic opioid was linked to almost 60% of all accidental drug or alcohol overdoses in 2022. Since 2016, overdoses in the county have almost tripled. There were more than 3,200 total drug overdoses in Los Angeles County last year.
Sad story. I'm not even kidding, Kim. Yesterday, my daughter I'm picking her up. She's like, "Oh, there was ambulances at our school today." And I was like, "Why?" She's like, "Someone overdosed in the bathroom." Not died. Apparently didn't die. But yeah, that at my daughter's school.
Yep.
And I was like, "Well, and I'm sitting her down, I'm having a conversation with her, and I'm like, "Well, how does that make you feel?" She's like, "Fine. It's happened before."
Yep.
And I'm like, the only thing I can say besides, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry I'm here," obviously if you want to talk about it, she didn't know the person. I think it was an older student or whatever. My daughter's a freshman. I was like, you cannot take anything anybody gives you. Like, and I don't know the situation. She didn't know the situation. Like, did the kid mean to take something? Because this is maybe the mom. I make it okay in my mind.
Yep.
Maybe it was like a kid saying, "Hey, because finals is coming up, take this Adderall. It'll help you study. It'll help you focus," kind of thing. And maybe it's just me being naive. I have no idea. But, you think you're taking one thing and they're not meaning to take a hard drug. They think they're taking a safer drug. And then they end up on a bathroom floor.
And I guess this awful for the student and family and what have you. But I use it as a learning moment to my kid to say,
yes.
You know how everybody is talking about that person right now? Do you want to be the kid carted away by an ambulance?
God, no.
Do you want to have me rushing to the hospital, worried out of my mind? Do you want to have the chance that your life is going to be cut short?
Exactly.
Don't be the kid taken away by the ambulance. Don't even give it a shot.
She's like, "Mom, I would never." And you want to believe your kids. And I do believe my kids, but like, how many times do you turn on the news and the parent's like, "I never thought this would happen to my kid." We talk about it all the time. That, that's the scary part is you think you're doing everything you can, and it just can go so horribly wrong. Yeah.
The autonomous vehicle division of General Motors has announced they will be laying off 24% of their staff.
Wow.
Cruise says the company is making changes to their operating plans.
Like we're not going to exist probably anymore.
The company released 9 key leaders in the company Wednesday after an analysis of an accident involved a pedestrian in San Francisco. Cruise LLC's self-driving ride service is currently suspended while safety standards are being evaluated. The layoffs announced today will affect approximately 900 workers. So you don't want to see people lose their jobs, but clearly they weren't ready for prime time. So
yeah, exactly.
Media outlets slashed nearly 2,700 jobs in news this year.
Jeez.
That almost is the most since 2020, according to a new study from outplacement firm Challenger Gray Christmas. Overall, media companies made more than 20,000 cuts in 2023. Several media companies announced plans to tighten staff and cut costs this year. For example, the Washington Post is looking to cut 240 jobs from their newsroom by the end of the year. Other companies like Condé Nast and Vox have made similar announcements as well.
and I wonder, this obviously downsizing.
Yep.
The fact that we were talking about PG&E and competition. There is so much competition with news, and information, and where people just get all sorts of things. I mean,
well, there used to be. What competition does KCBS have anymore? None.
No, but KCBS, I think, has competition with the internet, right? I mean, how many of you? And I've seen it, and I love it. They say the place I get my news is here, right? I don't turn. Now, I'm sure some people turn to KCBS for the local news, and we kind of do the same thing. Even though we're more regional, but KCBS doesn't have. I mean, I guess KQED, different format, different business platform. But you can tailor what you want to hear now, right? You can create your own little, using an algorithm. I only want to hear about entertainment news, or I only want to hear news from Alaska, or whatever. And it's, on one hand, it's great that we have that personalization. On the other hand, if you're just a kind of a startup, ragtag team of news people trying to make ends meet, you got a tough hill to climb. You really do.
California is now among 31 states with lead poisoning cases from applesauce.
Wow.
People are on alert as a national lead poisoning outbreak spreads to California. 8 other states added this week, bringing the total to 31. It's all tied to contaminated cinnamon applesauce pouches, a very popular snack among children. Wow. They were sold at various retailers under 3 brand names: Wanabana, Schnucks, and Weiss. The products all have been recalled. They were pulled from shelves early last month, but people don't realize it, and they're still letting their kids suck the apple juice from these pouches.
We're talking about the youngest kids, because kids that are eating apple sauce out of a packet, they're little. They're little. And it's so frightening. I remember when mold was the thing you had to worry about those packets. Yep. And that's why, or even in the Capri Suns, that's why Capri Sun now made the clear thing so you could see there's mold in it, which I don't know, man. My kids loved the pack. I think I probably have. Why are people knocking on my door? Why are people knocking on my freaking door right now?
Good morning. Yeah, that's all
right. Sorry. Nugget's going to continue to bark. Can't come to the door. Sorry, leave it there.
So funny. Well, the most famous national park in California is rolling out a new reservation system. Visitors driving into Yosemite will need to secure a spot starting in April. This will be in effect on weekends through June, then again through the middle of August to the end of October. It switches to every day in between. The park says it's similar to the peak hour system last summer. The goal is to ease overcrowding during the busiest times. So something they have to do.
Yeah. By the way, just a side note, it was Ryan, our postal worker, who I know on a first name basis because of all the nonsense surrounding the buttons. So I'm gonna have to leave him a little Christmas gift on the porch. I love Ryan.
I love when you know your postman's name.
Can't go. Sorry.
Nice.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
California is getting 2 new state symbols to start off the new year. I don't know how I feel about this.
Wait, what?
We're getting 2 new state symbols. The first is the golden chanterelle. It is now our official mushroom.
Okay.
Chanterelle mushroom. It's our official California mushroom. It is orange, yellow, white, usually found beneath oak trees. So,
and those are yummy. We can eat those.
Yep. It's also a favorite among chefs as well.
Yes. Okay.
The other state icon is the pallid bat, which eats mosquitoes, wasps, flies, and bark beetles. Not only does it provide more than $1 billion in pest control for agriculture, it also reduces the wildfire risk, apparently. Pallid bat. So
okay, I like the whole mosquito fly eating thing.
Yeah.
Please eat them all around me.
And the mushroom as we kick off 2024.
Yeah.
Because we needed that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. This report is crowdfunded, which means we rely on you for support and all the ways you support the show. We're very grateful. Anything helps at thenikkimedoroshow.com. You will find our Patreon and PayPal links. And thank you for kicking in. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. And I do, guys. That's how I knew it was Ryan at my door. I do have a doorbell camera. I'm glad he didn't ring it because that makes Nugget go even crazier. Mm-hmm. I love the ring. The thing that drives me nuts about the ring, and everybody has it, is the alert that somebody's at your door. It's that like doorbell thing. So if it's on TV and it goes off, Nugget goes nuts. Okay. But yeah, my postman, Ryan, shout out to Ryan. He's an awesome dude. He was really trying to help me get those buttons out to people, and be quite the we could have quite the interaction over and over and over again. Okay, so again, in about 15 minutes or so, our old colleague Kristen Haynes is going to be joining us. I'm so excited. She's going to talk about her nomadic life. When we talk about her, I want to know what it's like, because I know I follow her, right? I know that she does house sitting, so sometimes she'll be able to be in a house for a while. It's such a different experience, right? She lives in a van. She lives on a boat. She works on a boat. She shows how she cooks and does and washes her clothes. Was a recent video that she put out. I just don't. I know. You know what? I know. I can't do it. Even if I had no kids, Kim, I don't know if I'm. No,
you like the creature comforts. Yeah.
You know what it is? And going back to PG&E, I hate being cold. I feel like it's a lot of cold. Not comfortable type of thing. I think it takes a special type of person. But, and I know this story in a little bit of a tease, this whole way of living started in the Bay Area when she was at KGO. And so she'll tell her story. And if there's any questions that you have for her, throw it in the chat, because I'm really, really, really excited to talk to her and of course see her and all that. But speaking of housing, San Jose is building this huge housing development. Okay. And apparently this project is being proposed in North San Jose in the Alviso district. If anybody knows San Jose, you know where Top Golf is? I've been there only once. So there's a Top Golf, which is this it's really actually pretty fun. It's in that area. It's kind of near, it kind of stinks over there a little bit, smells because of the Alviso Arms or whatever. But anyway, they're planning this huge housing development. It's going to be 804 units. It's going to be on 3.2 acres at 7 Top Golf Way. So watch out for golf balls. A 200-room hotel was once envisioned, but that's been pushed off, and now it's going to be housing. And according to the people behind it, it's going to be 100%. A total of 8 multifamily buildings are being planned, consisting of 100% affordable housing. Okay, so here's my question to you. How much do you think you need to make to qualify for the affordable housing? Let me know in the comments.
I'm going to say, is it what, $58,000 a year?
No, actually, it's higher than that. It's higher than 58. Now, when I saw the number, I was actually a bit encouraged. I will tell you that. I was a little bit encouraged. I was like, okay, I'm actually not too mad about that. But when you hear that there's affordable housing units, how many of you think that you are going to qualify for it? So yeah, no, Calvin, it's higher than 50K. It's higher than 50K.
75?
Higher than 75.
Wow.
I know. More than $1,600 a month a year. I didn't do the math of breaking it down a month. This is an annual salary is the number that I have. And if you want to do the math after I give you the answer, you can. Nope. It's higher than 75.
85?
Higher than 85. Higher than 90.
Really? Higher than 100?
Higher than 100.
Interesting.
Yes. Isn't it?
Well, and that should be true then, because, try to make $100,000 a year and buy a house in San Jose.
Right? Exactly. So now, Jim, you want a bit high. Okay, so you want a bit high. Eric is saying 112. I hope you guys aren't looking up the answer. It's less than 112. So yeah, you guys are all around it. Okay, 98 from Randy, 130 from Vilma, 120. Okay, so it's 60%. Here's the thing. It is 60% of the area's median income for Santa Clara County. The median income in the San Jose area, pardon me, is $181,300. So the 60% cap would equate to a yearly household income of about $109,000 a year.
All right.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I think that especially if you're a single person, that's the immediate thought that I had, right? I think that once you get into, if you're middle income in the Bay Area and you both work, you probably don't make enough to afford a house, like a $2 million or $1 million house, but you can get the affordable housing one, perhaps. John says, I always thought affordable housing was a euphemism for free housing. Not even close, my friend. Not even close. So what do you guys think about that? Yeah, and Laura, you're absolutely right. There are tiers, very low income, low income, and you qualify based on that. But I like the fact that there's going to be a lot of people that I'm on, right? Like you guys can see me, correct? Okay. Yeah. I'm getting alerts on my computer. There are a lot of people that are in that kind of, I want to call it the sweet zone, but it's the sucky zone, right? You make too much to qualify for a lot of these low income programs, but you don't make enough to actually make it so you can afford a house.
Mm-hmm.
And, my husband makes good money. There's no way we would be able to afford a house in the Bay Area. I mean, we would be completely house poor because yes, maybe we could afford the mortgage, but nothing else. Property taxes, PG&E bills, those sorts of things. No freaking way. No way. And so it just seems really difficult to make ends meet. So I'm encouraged by this. Losing some of my my website. So I apologize if I drop out. Kim, let me know if I drop out, text me or whatever.
You're a little glitchy.
Yeah, I'm guessing that I'm a little glitchy. So how about this? Let me just reboot my computer really, really quickly.
Okay.
I'm going to be right back. But here's a story that I want to talk about in addition to the affordable housing. Okay. And this is the question that you guys can respond to. San Jose, because we're dealing with this housing problem, is considering sanctioned encampments. I'm going to show you a picture really quickly that I want you guys to weigh in on. It's already happening in San Diego. Okay. And I feel like this reminds me of things that happened during COVID. So here's the San Diego one. And this is what San Jose is considering, where tents would be sanctioned in an area, okay, on pallets, with tents, with curfew, with rules regarding drugs. How would you feel if you saw one of these crop up in your neighborhood? Let Kim know in the comments. I'm just going to restart my computer really quickly and I'll be right back.
Okay,
so you guys let me know. Okay. All right.
Wow. Those pallets are awfully close together. And I don't know what you would do about trash and all the trash around the tents and everything. In San Francisco, when we had tents in front of City Hall, do you remember that? The estimate was that it cost, because you had to have water and you had to have porta potties brought in and you had to have security and you had to have the outreach, it put the cost per individual tent to $60,000 a year per tent. It seems pretty astronomical. I wonder how much per tent these will cost. And if that, it seems we had the RV thing down at Candlestick Point. Remember that? Where the cost to park your RV that you already own in this spot was like $140,000 a year. So I guess the question is it better spent on these tent cities or these RV parks, or is it better spent as a stipend to actually get someone into a house and a job instead of the tent? Because it seems like it might cost a similar amount. I don't know. Brian says, are people living in those tents? Maybe in San Diego, there's a thought of bringing them to San Jose, which is what Nikki was trying to mention. Vilma says, yeah, they have trash pickups and showers. I'd rather have something organized than people living on the sidewalk. Well, I agree with that. If you can take that same money and pay for an apartment for someone, isn't that a better deal? Because then they're in a place, you can help them find a job and maybe maintain their own rent. I don't know. Eric writing, there's tents off the freeway all over the East Bay. I think sanctioned ones might have less trash because it implies there's a caretaker. Yeah, Eric, and it seems like there would be rules as well, right? So if you have rules and you have somebody there overseeing it all and you have trash pickup, then maybe you have more of a chance or less of a chance of garbage building up around these tents.
Well, I'm back, and I was listening on my phone while you were debating this. This is the way I see it, and I know people were talking about, the trash and everything like that. The other key kind of caveat of the whole thing, it also condenses people so you can get them services. That's what I like about it. Is money better spent, with creating permanent housing? That takes a hell of a long time. That's the problem with building affordable housing or transition housing. It takes a long time. You got a lot of NIMBYs out there, blah, 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 right? But if you could do it here, there's showers, there's bathrooms, there's trash pickup, and they do all of that, why not? How many, and I always think of this, and I know that it's not the same, okay? How many The Wire fans do I have out there? Remember that season where they were condensing all the drug sales and drug use to like a block or two? And then they were bringing services, and it was like cleaning up the outside areas. That area was terrible, but at least they could get the services to people. I always imagine something like that when we talk about this. Vilma says, not all homeless people are ready to go into an apartment. They lived on the street so long, they can't make the jump. So some are totally unemployable. I get that, but they can't also, in the same token, they can't live on the streets anymore, though. Does that make sense? Like, I know DA Brooke Jenkins from San Francisco was being called out for saying we can't make it comfortable, and that's the word that she used. We have to make them uncomfortable for living on the streets if they refuse shelter. And I understand what she meant to say. It's like, okay, I understand, Vilma, they may not be employable. They may not be able to make the jump. They also can't pitch a tent anywhere they want to. How about that? There has to be some middle ground. James says an encampment that large would make a disproportionate impact on the nearby area. I get what you're saying there as well. But what's the alternative? Would you rather have homeless people spread out all over the place, right? So there's a little encampment there, there's a little encampment there, or have them all kind of coalesced in one area where, again, homeless advocates, programs, services can go there and reach a lot of people. And I'll also add this. Maybe influence other people to join up, because what we hear all the time within the homeless community and the stories that come out of it is, I want to go get services. I want to go move into this temporary housing, but I can't leave the community I've formed. They depend on me. We look out for each other. Well, what if you all kind of went there together and tried to figure it out that way? I mean, that could be an answer. Natalie says one of the hurdles to get people into housing is their addiction, preventing them from complying with the rules. This would help them. Perhaps. I mean, that's an idea, right? I mean, I would say that could actually, I don't know. It's so, it's a hard answer, especially in an area like this where it's so freaking expensive, right? It's so expensive to afford anything. Deidre says, as the homeless increase in my neighborhood, crime increases. I'm not going to say that that's wrong necessarily, but I would also say it's not universal. It's not every single homeless committing the crime. It's obviously those that aren't getting the services, aren't doing any of those things. Sandy says they've been clearing a huge homeless encampment near where I live in San Jose for the last few days. There are big scooping machines and people in hazmat gear. And since you mentioned San Jose, Sandy, have you noticed, and maybe this is the one you're talking about, there was this huge homeless encampment that I was bitching and moaning about when I was still at KGO. It was right near the Capitol drive-ins. This huge grassy knoll right around this turn to Monterey Road. It's gone. Now, I haven't driven past it in a while, but the last time I drove by, I want to say like a week and a half ago, empty. That's huge. That thing's been there forever. Vilma says, no, Nikki, they can't live on the street any longer, but they can live in an organized encampment to begin with. Yeah. And I think that that's what San Jose is aiming for. Golf says, create communities in rural areas where land is $1,000 per acre. Where? Not in California. I highly doubt that's going to happen. It's people may go to, take huge steps to try to afford housing, whether it's living in tents, whether living in encampments. And I love that we're talking about this because I'm going to be bringing on a colleague of ours, a former colleague that worked with us at KGO, who is living in a completely different way than any of us are doing, and has been doing it for quite a while. I want to welcome now Kristen Haynes to the show. Kristen, I am so happy to see your face. She is with thewaywardhome.com. I have included the website in the show notes. Kristen, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yay!
Oh, it's so fun. I'm so happy to see both of you.
So, okay, first off, I noticed the background. Where are you?
I am in my camper van right now in Mexico, actually in a boatyard parked next to my sailboat, which we're currently working on and getting ready to go in the Sea of Cortez. So that's where I am right now.
Wow. Okay. So for people that only know you by your voice, we all worked at KGO together. You're an amazing reporter. And so can you just give us the background of how you started being what I call this nomadic lifestyle, where you aren't living in a traditional home, apartment, condo, something like that? How did this all start for you?
Yeah, so this started, as you know, in 2016, tons of the newsroom got laid off, and I was one of those people. And so quickly, I had to figure out how to not pay rent in the San Francisco Bay Area because I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to go into debt paying rent. I can't, maintain this lifestyle without having a job. And at the time, he's my current partner as well, but my boyfriend Tom had a sailboat he had just purchased. And so I informed him, I've been laid off. I'm giving notice at my apartment and I am moving onto your sailboat. And this was a sailboat. And his sailboat was, an old boat and it needs tons of restoration at the time. It had like no bathroom that worked, no kitchen that worked.
Oh, wow.
It was really like difficult to go and start living on this boat. But that's why I started living alternatively. And then, that evolved into creating this website for other people that also want to do the same thing. But that layoff was the reason why I started this journey toward tiny living in the first place.
So you're on the boat. How is that at first? I mean, again, you just described it. It was very rustic, to be nice. Talk about the highs and lows. I mean, kind of lay it out for us about, was there a moment, I guess, my first question is, where you're like, okay, the first night, first week, I could do this. Was there ever this like, what the hell am I doing right now?
Oh, definitely. It was hard at first, to be honest, like, because the boat did not have amenities. And before I had been living on a pretty nice floating home houseboat in Sausalito, which is just like a house with all the amenities you could possibly want. And then suddenly I am on this sailboat. I have no job. I have like a little bit of unemployment money coming in. And it was kind of like exciting at first, but also very challenging. And one of the other things that made it challenging is there are live aboard laws and quotas in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Right.
So in the marina we were in, we were only like technically allowed to be on the boat 2 nights per week. And so therefore we had to split that time between maybe sleeping in a Prius or sleeping in a van that I got in 2018, or I did a ton of house sitting and pet sitting in the area, or we anchored the boat out. And so there was all these other issues with us not being allowed to live there, which caused some stress and anxiety on my part. If we did exceed the 2 days, which we did sometimes, we would just kind of creep around and leave really early, go to the gym, and I would stay at this gym called the Bay Club. People in the Bay Area will be familiar with that, but I would stay there like 10 hours a day. That was my daytime home. And so I know there was a lot of challenges in the beginning, for sure. It was not like, oh, this is so fun, I'm living on a boat. Although when we did take the boat out and anchor it in different places in the San Francisco Bay, it was beautiful. It was like we're in nature, we're away from people. And so it felt like a different world. But definitely being in the city and trying to live this alternative lifestyle is hard. It's way more difficult than it is now in my life, luckily. But definitely the first few years until 2020, when we left the Bay Area, had their share of difficulty.
Right. Did you ever think about not necessarily doing that sort of lifestyle, just leaving an expensive area like the Bay Area and living more traditionally in a cheaper area?
Yeah, except for the problem was my partner Tom has a daughter and she was not yet 18. And so for that, he was remaining in the Bay Area to be a part of her life. And he still had a good job in the Bay Area. And so that allowed him to have the income to restore this sailboat. And so that's partly why we waited so long to leave, is we waited until she turned 18. And then that was in 2020. And then boom, we were down the coast in the sailboat heading for Mexico.
Nice.
When you're sitting there in the camper van, I'm assuming it's a rented camper van that you give it back and when you're ready to get back aboard the sailboat, or if it's yours, how do you manage both vehicles at one time?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely mine, and this is our second camper van. The first one was a Chevy Astro, if you can imagine, a little minivan. That was the first van I got in 2018, and we lived in that for 3 years off and on, splitting time with the sailboat and this tiny van. And we upgraded to this one in 2021, which Tom built out this interior you see now. It's not done. It's a DIY van, but we've spent about 6 months in this van in the US, come to Mexico and spend 6 months in the boat, and then we just put the van in storage during that time. And I still have the Chevy Astro in storage in Yuma, so I have 2 vans now and a boat. So 3 tiny homes, but yeah, we're definitely on the move a lot, except for when we're here at the boatyard working on the boat, so
Is it easy to
yeah.
find a place to shower? And is it I think to myself, if I didn't have access to a shower or I was constantly in a place where you had to put a quarter in a wall in order for the water to come out type of thing, like how different of a life that would be. Is that a problem or is that the biggest problem or what do you see as the biggest challenge?
So that I got used to pretty quickly. In the Bay Area, it was easy because I was a member of the Bay Club and they have beautiful shower facilities and towels,
Mhm,
galore. That was fantastic.
mhm,
But when we left the area, when we live in our van, we either use the campground one or we have a solar shower because we spend a lot of time off grid. So we go
mhm,
down these dirt roads on public lands and we're parking in the middle of nowhere. And so we do use a solar shower. We heat up the water in the van on the stove and hang it outside and shower outside. And it's actually quite lovely. Sometimes I do miss, like, being able to just stand in the hot water for 10
Yeah.
minutes
mhm,
or take a bath. That's one of the
mhm,
things. So we supplement that with going to maybe a hot spring resort or an RV park that has mineral springs, which there's in Desert Hot Springs, California, you can, rent an RV spot with access to, like, 13 beautiful mineral pools. So that's kinda where I get my
Wow.
bath
mhm.
out of the situation. But I'd
Yeah,
say probably the hardest part is actually just the constant movement and the constant seeking of resources. So if
right,
we move to a new location, it's like, oh, where do I grocery shop? Where do I do laundry? Where can we
right.
fill up our water tanks? And so I find myself like on my phone a lot, just research, research, research. And we call it hunting and gathering. It's like you're
Yeah,
hunting
No,
for your
yeah.
basic necessities a lot of the time. And so
yeah.
when you're doing that, it takes so much time out of your life that you're like, oh, when do I work? When do I do this and that?
Mhm,
And so, but when you do find that sweet spot, like we found one outside Yuma, Arizona, and we were there for like 2 months working on the van. I was working on my business, and then we knew where to go get all those items. And so that
mhm,
felt more relaxing to kind of take a step back and
Yeah.
yeah.
not run around so much. So that's probably my biggest challenge is the balancing of running around versus staying put.
Now you mentioned your business. Talk a little bit about how I mean, I know many people are saying it doesn't sound like it's inexpensive though.
Mhm,
Obviously you have expenses if you're building things out and
mm.
how do you make money, Kristen?
Yeah, so I started this blog, The Wayward Home in 2017, and I had no idea, what a blog or an online business was. I came from, radio news reporter background. That's all I knew how to do. And I read this article about a woman that made money blogging, and and at the time she was making like 100,000 a month blogging, and I was like, "What?
Wow,
Like
What?
I know. I was like, that's a viable income source? Like I
sign
had
me
no
up.
idea.
Mhm,
I know. That's what I said. And so in 2017, I just started getting on that bandwagon and I started taking classes and I was like, I'm going to treat this like a new degree. I'm going to learn this thing. And it took time, but in a period of maybe a couple of years, I was able to replace, my full-time income. And that's through a combination of advertising revenue and affiliate revenue, and getting traffic mostly through Google searches. So you write articles that people will find on Google that gets you
Right.
traffic, and then you make money from that traffic. And so that's my main income source. And I was able to quit, freelance writing and voiceover work many years ago. And this is like my
wow.
full business. And so it's really fun and exciting.
Well, yeah, I was checking out your website. And again, her website is thewaywardhome.com. And it's very professional looking. I follow you on Instagram and all the social medias and your videos. And so I'm happy that you're able to do this. Would you have described yourself as a person that could transition to this type of lifestyle before you were kind of forced into it?
No, I mean, not really. Although I think it helps. I came from a background of someone who grew up camping. I grew up
Okay.
backpacking. I grew up loving nature and not really liking cities. I remember in my 20s, I was working at Como Radio up in Seattle, and I was, young, 26, and I chose to live on Bainbridge Island. And everybody was like, "Why is someone so young living on Bainbridge Island?" It's because I want to be in nature. I want to be in the
Mm,
trees. Like, I don't
Mhm,
like the city. I don't like people. So I do think my background kind of helped me transition to this lifestyle. And plus my Tom he loves this. He'd been living on a sailboat before. He's cruised the Panama Canal, and he's more of a rugged kind of outdoors guy, and he's fun to be with. And just because he was doing it made me want to do it as well. And we had so much fun together. But doing it on my own I don't think I would have done it. I think I would have instead I would have moved out of San Francisco. I probably would have moved home to my parents' house in Portland, found a job, a normal job, and just followed that path. But it's only because of him that I decided to, I want to try this. He's doing it. I could do it with him. And so that's for the main reason that I did this.
What does your family think of this, though? I mean, I'm sure they're used to it maybe now, but I can only imagine my parents in my head being like, "You're doing what? No, come home. Come home. I got a warm bed and shower for you. Come home."
Yeah, totally. Luckily, my parents are pretty open-minded. They were also, mountain climbers and skiers and outdoors people. And my dad, when he moved to Oregon, he lived in a blue van, a Dodge van. And my stepdad as well had a van he lived in. And so they're just like, whatever. Kristen just likes to do what she wants to do. And they weren't too worried about it. And now my dad actually has a minivan that he goes camping in and sleeps in. He does live in a house, but he camps in a van. And I was with him the first night he did that. And I thought that was really funny. And my mom travels in an RV like 3 to 6 months a year.
Oh, nice. So
it's
in your blood.
Yeah, I think it's in my blood. Luckily.
Now, I don't want to make any assumptions about, your future plans or whatever, but it was something that we were kind of talking about before we brought you on. And John asks, would she do this if she had kids? Now, I meant your partner had a daughter, older. Did she ever go with you? And is that a question you guys talk about, or is that already decided?
Yeah, so I don't think we are going to have kids, but in terms of his daughter, who's now 21, she did join us on the sailboat a little bit in the San Francisco Bay, but more now. She actually joined us for a week last spring in the Sea of Cortez, and this year she wants to join us for a couple weeks to a month possibly, and she's loving it. But that being said, I do know a lot of people, especially on sailboats, that do have children. In this boatyard I'm in, there's a couple kids running around, and you do see people that choose to cruise with their kids. I think van life with kids is a little harder because vans are just so small. I think you can bring a baby, like some people do bring a baby up to like a 2 to 4 year old in a van, but at that point you really need an RV, I think, or a larger sailboat. And I have seen people doing that. I think for me, I'm not totally sure, because I don't have children. I don't know how difficult it is. So I don't know, but I could imagine it would make it way more challenging to have children and try to do this lifestyle.
Here you are working in your van.
Look at that.
Yes, that's my first van. That's the Chevy Astro minivan, and that's parked right by the Golden Gate Bridge right there. And I would cook like that too, right on one of those little benches. And we would drive around Marin County looking for places that we could park stealthily and cook our dinner and sleep in the van. So that was definitely challenging and interesting at the same time.
You had a recent post that showed like what people think van living or whatever's like, and then you showed what it's really like with like stuff everywhere. And and you had another one where I think you were doing yoga, which you do, but you're like, because there's a lot of influencers and people that kind of make it seem so romantic, right? And it's so lay it out for us. I mean, what's the best part and what's the not so great part?
Yeah, so the best part is definitely, I think that picture, and I posted that picture of me doing yoga outside my van, and it was a desert and it was warm, it was evening, and the sunset was just glowing in the sky. And to me, that was like perfection. It's like a Zen moment. It's wonderful outside. And so the best moments are moments like that, or moments when I'm just in nature, and we love to mountain bike and hike and just be in nature all the time. And for me, it's like a culture shock to go back to a city. I'm like, get me out of here. But being in nature is definitely the best part, along with the flexibility, because I do have a remote income. I can travel. Like we go home to Oregon, and I'm there for now like 2-3 months out of the summer. When I had a full-time job, I was there for a weekend here, a week, a few days there. But now I really choose where to spend my time. And that's like another hugely beneficial part of it, just that freedom. And so those are my favorite parts. And probably the least favorite parts are the movement, the instability, the being away from things I love to do that only cities offer. For example, like I love dancing, like ballroom dancing or Latin dancing or tango. I used to do that like many nights a week, and that just can't happen happen when you're out in nature on the move. And Tom liked to play in a band. That's what he did. And that's something that's hard to find. So those kind of, community or cultural activities you can't really do. You're more doing nature activities or surfing or mountain biking. So I think that's a really hard part, and the lack of community. Here in the boatyard, actually, there's a lot of community because there's a lot of cool people that are working on their cruising sailboats. But in the camper van, you're often just by yourself in the middle of nowhere, and there's not really that sense of community. And so that's another challenging side of it. So I'd say those are probably the harder ones. And the movement and the researching is pretty challenging as well.
Are you ever scared? Like, and I mean, physically, like, I know that you have your partner with you, Tom, but like on the ocean, I don't know. Like, these are the things that pop into my mind. Like, how do you sleep, for instance, when you're sailing? Are you scared of, bears? I don't know. I'm not trying to be silly, but it can be isolating, I can imagine. You said we park in the middle of nowhere. Well, I'm a horror movie fanatic, so I'm just thinking, somebody's gonna come out and get me and my partner, and who's gonna know that we're gone because we're in the middle of nowhere? Like, are you ever scared?
Weirdly, I'm not very scared, but Tom is the vigilant one. I don't know. He's always like, his brain goes through all the what if scenarios and all the this could happen scenarios. And he's kind of attuned and listening to everything. And maybe because he's there, I'm not scared. But the only time that it is more nerve wracking is when we're in a city or close to an urban center.
Oh, interesting.
And what's interesting is one time we were camping up at Pantoll, and this was such a long time ago on Mount Tam. And we were the only ones camping in that campground. And a group of pretty ruffian kids, actually from Mill Valley. You wouldn't imagine they'd be ruffians, but they were. They came and they were drinking and they were loud. And we told them to be like, please be quiet. It's 10 p.m. It's quiet hour. And they started like circling our tent, yelling like, drag them out. And that was really scary. And we actually called the cops, and the rangers came and talked to them and told them to like dump their alcohol out. And then the rangers left, and the guys started yelling threats down at us. So we actually ran out of the tent and into the woods. And then we had to call the cops again. And I think that was our last night pitching a tent in the San Francisco Bay Area. We were like, we don't like this. So that's the only time I felt afraid was near a big city. And so if we ever have to camp near cities or like rest stops or anywhere near people, I'm way more nervous if I'm out in the middle of nowhere, because I don't think people are driving out of cities down dirt roads to find people in vans. I think the criminals are sticking to the urban areas. So that's how I feel safe in nature in the van. And in the boat, I haven't felt scared yet, because we haven't hit any real rough seas or bad conditions. Okay. But in the Sea of Cortez, there's not exactly like the Navy or the Coast Guard standing by to rescue you down here off of Baja. And I have felt nervous at night. We've had winds gusting 40, 50 knots when we're sailing. And if one of us falls off deck, that could be very, very scary. And so I do think about that. And so that's probably one of the most scariest parts is stay on the boat. We're always wearing a life jacket. Yeah. And because when you're in, sorry, what was that?
I was just going to say, do you think you will ever get to an age where this lifestyle won't be something that you can handle? And so I guess the question is, do you save with that in mind, that eventually you're going to have to move to a more stable location where, you won't have to live as physical a life?
Yes, for sure. I definitely put tons of money aside, because one benefit of this lifestyle is it's really cheap. I think like to live in this boatyard, we pay, our rent is like $250 a month, and we have a boat here and a van here, and that includes, I have a full hookup all the time in this van. We have unlimited water, bathroom, shower, and then we went out to eat the other night and it was like $14. The groceries are cheap, and so our living is so affordable that I am able to put a lot of money aside. And I'm thinking like one day I'll use that maybe to purchase real estate or transition. There is a couple here, and they're 70, and they've been doing this for like 30, 40 years. And they finally purchased a property in Arizona with a house, and they're moving on to it this year and selling their boat. But there does become a point where you just desire, I think, more creature comforts. And I could see myself maybe doing it part-time. Like I have a house, but I do this sometimes. So I think there's always change and movement there. And so we'll see. I might buy a property at some point, live there part of the year. But luckily I do have savings that I could do that.
That's good.
So
yeah,
I'm thankful.
So you were kind of forced into this, obviously, with getting laid off and not wanting to move home and those sorts of things. But I know a lot of people have, they're watching this, they follow your blog and they daydream, right? What is the first thing, or some of the first things people should really consider before they even think about this sort of lifestyle?
Yeah, I'd say that people should be used to the, or used to the idea that there are going to be a lot of discomforts in the lifestyle. Like, it's not always dreamy. It's sometimes difficult. You sometimes feel very, dirty. I hate feeling dirty. That's the one thing that I don't like. And there were a couple of times where I did feel our old van actually had all these cracks in it. And so when we'd go down dirt roads, it would fill with dust and it would be on my pillow, it'd be on my refrigerator and my hair, and I hated it. And I'm like, this is disgusting. I want to live in a house. But this new van, that's not a problem. It's never dusty in here. And we do take shower. It has a 30-gallon water tank. And so we take showers like every day. And so that's how I have made this work for me. But if you don't have that ability, people might really not like that. Like I've read some posts from van lifers and they're like, I haven't showered in 5 days. And I'm like, how do you do that? Not for me. But if you don't have that capacity in your van to carry that much water, you can't shower every day. But luckily we have that and we made that happen in our life. So I think people have to know that they have to plan for these things. Like, do you need a toilet in your van? Like that's another thing that we don't
I would say
have,
yes. I would say I want a toilet.
I tried it and it was disgusting. I tried a composting toilet, and the other kind of toilet you can have in your van is a chemical one. So you actually have to go to the bathroom in this cartridge, wheel it out of your van with chemicals in it, and dump it into a toilet. So you have to like look at everything.
No, never mind. I don't want that.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work in this small space. In an RV, you have a black tank and a hose, so it's way easier. And so people should think about: can I deal with a van, which is more like glamorized tent camping, or do I need an RV that has like an actual shower and hookups and a toilet that drains into the ground, like into the right sewer hole in the campground? Like, so there's a lot of things to think about with choosing your rig for your particular level of comfort. I think van lifers are a different breed than RVers because we can deal with way less comforts. But maybe someday I'll get a bigger RV. So there's so many options that my mom has a Class A and it's as big as my boat. And so there's, so many options out there for people who want to try nomadic living. Like they don't have to do the van. They can get a larger, more comfortable RV. And so that's what I would coach people is like really figure out what you want. And you can go rent something, for a week and see how that feels. So that's another thing I tell people.
And obviously gas prices. I mean, it has to also, you were talking about how cheap it is. It's not cheap if you're paying $4, $5, $6 a gallon in gas.
Yes. And that's what I love about when we transition to the boat, because we have a sailboat and we don't hardly pay for any diesel. I think last year it was like $200 of fuel for like 5 months of sailing. Wow. And so that's very affordable, the sailboat. But when we bring the Sprinter back into the US in the summer, I get a bit of sticker shock with the gas prices, and our cost of living goes way up with the restaurants, the grocery stores, and the fuel. And that's something people have to definitely budget for. Unless you want to go park on Bureau of Land Management for a month, which some people do, then you save money on gas. But we like to move more than that. And so that is a substantial part of the budget in the summer.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at your website and I'm clicking on the different tabs you have. What's a schoolie?
That's a school bus that people turn into a camper. That's a big thing people like to do.
Oh, my husband would love that.
Yeah, and they read because the bones of a school bus are very like robust because they're built to protect kids and to transport kids. And so people like that. RVs kind of rattle and fall apart sometimes. They're built with lightweight, cheaper materials, where school bus has really hard bones. And so you can gut it, you can fix it, you can make it very beautiful in your own custom tiny home. So a lot of people do that.
Here's an interesting question, and I just wonder if it's really an escape from reality. One of our viewers is, not that one. This one. Do people talk about Trump down there? How engaged? You're a news person. You were a reporter. How engaged are you still in like current events, politics? I mean, are you still following it? Or are you like, I'm so glad I could just be on my sailboat, middle of the ocean, and don't need to worry about any of that crap?
I still have the news bug. I think once you're a reporter, it's always in your blood. Right. And what's interesting is I'm in Puerto Penasco, Rocky Point, where the Lukeville border was just shut down. And this is a huge deal because that is the main thoroughfare between Phoenix and this town I'm in. And so this place depends on Phoenix tourism. It has like thousands of people here every weekend visiting, and it's a ghost town right now. It's really creepy.
Wow.
It's weird to see. It's sad for these merchants. Everybody's struggling. And so I have this news like urge constantly that I'm actually out there taking pictures. I interviewed people. I posted it on Twitter and actually got interviewed in a couple of outlets and quoted. I had a little quote in the New York Post. And so, yes, I am still really in tune with the news, especially when it's happening around me. And I do read both the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal every morning. So I don't read the local news so much anymore, but I do read more national headlines and try to stay in touch with what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, I could just imagine. I mean, part of me, I think just like you, Kim probably feels the same way. Once a news person, always a news person.
Yeah.
But I could imagine also just being like, click, just quiet, right? Just to kind of get away from all of that. Okay, so what's next for you? So you're in Mexico. You're going to be sailing, and how can people obviously support you and follow you along your journey? Is it simply through the website?
Yeah, the best way is just through the website. And right at the very top, you can subscribe to my email list. So that's a really good way to stay in touch with me. I try to send out emails once a week. And through my email list, I also, will recommend products I like. And that helps me. If someone purchases a product through a link of mine on the website, that's a way I make money. And it doesn't cost the person anything else. It just gives me a small commission kickback off of that link. So if you need to purchase anything, click a link on my site or browse some of my articles, join my email list, or follow me I'm on Instagram as well, and dabbling with TikTok. So I'm all over, the internet under the wayward home. So yeah, I'd love to hear from anybody. Like, email me. I respond and read to all my emails, and it's fun keeping in touch with people for sure.
Well, I love seeing your face. I mean, I was telling Kim, I was like, we're gonna have Kristen on. She's gonna talk about, and it's so interesting. And I couldn't do it. I know myself. I'm a creature comfort type of person, but I do love camping. So I think, I love the idea. We've always wanted to do RVs. We've wanted to take our kids, and we have two, a middle schooler and a high schooler, where if I told them that they had to do even a quarter of what you did, they'd probably look at me like I was nuts. But at the same time, want to go take them out on an RV away from their electronics and just look out and experience nature. And that's, I'm jealous of you in that aspect, because, it's not an easy life, but it does sound amazing. And I'm assuming you're really happy.
I am. I really like it, and I'm going to keep doing it until I don't like it, and then I'll probably purchase like a property and transition to that lifestyle. But I'll just keep doing it until, I think, as long as it's fun is what people in this lifestyle say, as long as you like it. And luckily I do have a backup monetary source.
Yes.
But I have to say, I do really miss you guys. Like, one of the things that's fun about the news business is having colleagues in the news business. And that's the thing I miss the most, because we had so much fun together. And so being out here, like, there's nobody can relate to this business at all. Like, nobody knows. Like, there's a select few that have been in it, and so it's also fun to speak to both of you.
If it's any consolation, I live in the same town where I grew up, and there's not a lot of change going on in my life. And I look at what you're doing and I think, what an adventure.
Yes.
There's always something different going on. There's always something, a new place you could go, a new thing you could see. It's like I realize there's hardships as well, but it is a bit like you're on this permanent vacation. And so at least know that I'm looking at you that way, thinking that you have quite the non-boring life, as opposed to what I'm living over here. Yeah.
That's true. It does, and it suits my personality really well, because I do tend to get bored kind of easily, and that's why I was a news reporter, because it was always interesting and different.
Yeah.
And so is this. And this is, I never know what I'm going to be doing next, or I kind of do, but not really. I could change it in a heartbeat, and so I like that. I like the changeability of it and the excitement and adventure, and it's really it's quite fun.
I love seeing your face. The door is always open. We'd love to have you back on if you're on any of your crazy adventures, but we will be following you. So again, Kristen Haynes, there's her website, thewaywardhome.com. Find her on Instagram, find her through her website, help support her. Kristen, we wish you the best of luck. Stay in touch, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. So nice seeing you both, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, bye. Great one. Bye. Happy holidays.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays. Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, wasn't that fun?
That was really fun.
Dude,
it's good to see her again. Wow.
It's so good to see her. And you know what's so funny is I love that you ended it by saying, I have my boring life here. And instantly I'm like, and I could not live that life. I admire her so much. But it's just like when Jeff Probst on Survivor says, do you want to join us out here? And I look at my TV and I go, no. Like, I do not.
No, Jeff. No, I don't. I like watching other people do that stuff, but I don't want to do that. I don't know what it is
about myself. Like I look at Kristen and I follow her on social media, and there is that itch, like, oh my God, her life must be so interesting. Look at all those places she's been. I've never even been to a quarter of those places. Imagine living your life on a sailboat. And then I think to myself, you would be a miserable bitch on that boat. Like you would just be like, I'm cold. I don't want to be here anymore. Like I just know myself. A vacation, maybe even a month, I could probably handle. After that, give me my warm bed. You know,
my dad had a Grand Banks, which was a power boat.
Okay.
Not quite a yacht, but a pretty big boat. It had 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a living room, and a kitchen. All right. No, the kitchen and the living room are kind of one space. But I stayed on that boat before, but there was a shower and a bathroom and like all the amenities. There was you weren't living the hard life. It was very, and we would take it out under the Golden Gate, or they would anchor out near Treasure Island Cove or whatever. And it was really fun. And they lived aboard, and they did it to save money. But it turns out that when you have a boat, and I would assume an RV is similar, it can break a lot, and there's a lot of money that gets poured into those things.
Right.
And they found that it really wasn't that much cheaper because they were having to, constantly fix things and replace things.
I think it sounds like Tom is handy though. I think it's expensive if you have to pay somebody to do it. If you do it yourself, it's probably a hell of a lot cheaper. I mean, and again, the waywardhome.com, you could see some of her past videos, because I remember years ago when she was first, she was learning how to do all these things. And a lifestyle I admire, a lifestyle I do not think that's for me. But
no,
it's fun to know somebody that's living that life, right?
Totally.
It's fun to kind of dip into that lifestyle for just a second and see how it is. So just not me. I just don't think I could do it. No. All right. Doug, thank you so much for the $5 super sticker. You're awesome. Thanks, that was a great interview. I love it. Okay. We're going to lighten things up on the second part of the show. We still have to do headlines, right? We didn't do headlines.
We didn't.
We did not do it.
We've only done it once.
Okay. We're going to do a couple of headlines, and then we're going to talk about sex, baby. SEX. And putting out. I promised you guys that we would discuss this.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Question. How soon is too soon to put out, and is there a time? It's simple. It's simple. Does it matter? Did you have a rule? If you have sex before marriage, some people do not. So your rule is when the ring is on my finger. But if you don't subscribe to that lifestyle and you do put out on a date, how soon is too soon? And does that exist? Jeez,
isn't there this old, the societal rules? Like if you do it too soon, then you're a slut.
But who has to abide by those rules?
If you wait too long, then you're a prude. And if you're this and that, and there's all these labels slapped on you depending on what happens.
Right. Well, see, that's the thing. There seems to be rules, but who has to follow the rules?
Okay.
And this is what gets to me, and this is why I want to talk to it. It seems like there's this rule. Like, let's just throw something out. Arbitrary. 3 dates. 3 dates. Okay, but for who? For the woman. If it's the first date, why is the woman getting vilified when she was, and I'm talking about heterosexual relationships here, when she's having sex with a man who also had sex on the first date? Like, what is the problem? And is it wrong for women to encourage women to put out on the first date if they want to? You guys let me know in the comments. We'll do some headlines. We'll get into that. I'll tell you about this reality TV star that's getting criticized for suggesting just that. If you want to put out on the first date,
do it.
Knock some boots. It's A-okay. All right, click the thumbs up button, and here is Kim with some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is in Israel today as the war between Israel and Hamas nears the end of its 10th week. Sullivan meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other officials as tensions between the United States and Israel have reached new highs. Netanyahu says Israel will continue fighting until it reaches victory and nothing less. The House is a step closer to impeachment proceedings against President Biden. Wednesday's vote to authorize an impeachment inquiry went straight down party lines. All 221 House Republicans voted yes. All 212 Democrats voted against the resolution. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is telling Republican lawmakers not to be so eager to leave for the holiday break before reaching a deal on aid for Ukraine, Israel, and border security. Meanwhile, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell is criticizing Democrats for waiting until the last minute about the southern border. Republicans are demanding significant border policy changes in exchange for Ukraine aid, including restricting asylum and parole programs, holding aid for Ukraine hostage over that. President Biden is expected to announce that dozens of pharmaceutical companies will be required to pay rebates to Medicare because they raised drug prices faster than the rate of inflation. The president calls the rebates a very important step toward ending price gouging. President Biden will deliver remarks at the National Institutes of Health today in Maryland. The World Health Organization is calling for a ban on flavored vapes in order to protect children and non-smokers. A release by the agency's director general says there is alarming evidence now that vaping causes negative health effects. There is alarming evidence that vaping causes negative health effects.
I totally agree.
The director general added that vaping is not shown to be an effective way to quit tobacco use.
Well, I disagree with that because that's how I did it. But again, I think, see, here's my thing about flavored vaping, cartridges or whatever. One, it's not accurate. It's not 100% accurate to say that because you have flavors that it's going to solely attract kids. I think people like the taste of flavors, right? Gum, nobody wants plain gum, right? If I'm a kid or an adult. Does it make it easier for a kid to be enticed if it tastes like bubble gum or watermelon or something like that? Yes. But that's also ignoring the fact that if kids want to be cool and start smoking or vaping, they're going to do it no matter what it tastes like. I started smoking, it tasted like shit. You just get used to it, right? So no, I don't think that if you got rid of the flavors, it's going to make it so kids don't vape. I don't subscribe to that belief. Do I think that it entices it and makes it easier? Of course. But it makes it easier for anybody to do it, not just children. Okay. 2, look, it exists. I want to know. Now, while I do fully agree that there is a health effect from vaping, I do want more research or investigation into the difference between that and like a combustible cigarette, right? The other thing I want more information on, and I'm not ready to say it does or it does not, is that cloud of vape smoke. What is that doing to other people around, right? I mean, and is that cloud the same as a cloud of secondhand cigarette smoke, right? All of these things. Now, am I saying if vaping is less than but still harmful, would I rather have somebody vape than smoke? Right now, that's how I feel. But prove me wrong. If it's exactly the same health effect, if it's just as bad, if it's worse, let me know. But just saying there is a negative health effect, okay, I could have assumed that from the very beginning. You're inhaling something that's not supposed to be there, right? So I can imagine that is the case. But is it as bad? And if it is, I want to know that immediately.
So we know that there's a lot of vaping going on in high schools, and you and I both have fresh high schoolers.
Yes. I hate it.
What would you do if you were driving down the street and saw Marley with a bunch of friends with a vape in her hand?
That happened to me when I was a teenager in high school. I was smoking. My mom did a loop. She dropped me off at school and I walked across the street with my friends and I started smoking cigarettes, and she pulled up in my dad's black Cadillac or a blue Cadillac and get in the effing car. Like, she was so fucking pissed. So probably the same. I would probably have a deja vu moment, but from the other perspective. But and I'm like, get in the freaking car. I have told her under no uncertain terms.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Because she's seen my husband. Now my kids don't really remember. I did smoke when they were very, very little. But I don't think they remember that because I've quit so long ago. But they've seen their dad vaping and promising to quit vaping and has not quit vaping, right? And so I tell them, do you want to, you know how annoying it is, right? When he's like, I'm going to go outside and vape, whatever. Like, do you want to be beholden and addicted to something? Because you're going to want to quit. Just as much as you think that you're going to want to try something, you are going to want to quit, and it's harder. So just don't start, and then you don't have to quit. And it's not that cool, and you look like a moron sucking on this thing. But you tell kids to not do something, and they do it. So I'd probably just tell them to get in the effing car and try to ground. But the thing is once they're out of your sight, They're out of your sight. So
well, and her anger at you didn't stop you from smoking.
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. It might, I think to myself, what would it have taken? What would it have taken for me to like see that my parents were upset and not do it? And I just don't think that there was anything. I had peer pressure. I wanted to smoke and then I became addicted to it. So I just did it. And then it was an exception. And I'm not calling on my parents. They're great. They are great parents. They were great parents back then. But, I would light up a cigarette in front of them and take off in my car. Like that was life. And what are they going to do? So you can't ground your kids forever. And I was grounded a lot. So that didn't stop me from smoking cigarettes. So I don't know. I just try to prevent it by talking a lot about it. But at some point, they're going to have to live with the consequences of their decisions. So what would you do? What would you do, Kim? If you but then you ground them.
It would not be pretty. It would not be pretty. No.
Okay. But what if they started it again? Like, so you ground them, you do whatever punishment you have in your mind. And then 2 months later, you see them vaping again. Like, what do you continue to do? What would you do?
I mean, you could threaten to homeschool them.
Like if you
can't be responsible, right?
You don't want to homeschool your freaking kids. Nobody wants. That's a punishment to you. That's not a punishment to you.
I always go overboard with my threats. Like last night, we have this program where you can look and see like if your kid has turned in assignments on time and like if they're
I have that.
What their grades are, whatever.
Right.
So she's got 3 red marks, which means a red mark means you have a late assignment.
Oh, boo. Okay. I hate that. I hate that. It drives me nuts.
1 for PE because she was absent one day, so she has to do a makeup. She has 1 for English, and then she has 1 in biology. And I said, listen, sister, as I'm picking her up from drumline practice.
Right.
If your first job is to handle your assignments. And if you can't do that, then your extracurriculars have to go. So if I see another red mark come up on this site, then maybe it's time for you to quit drumline.
Oh,
maybe that's it.
Yeah.
My husband thought that was pretty severe. And she got really upset. She's like, I made a commitment to drumline. I was given they give you a kind of like a play. They give you a role. So they give you a chair of an instrument. So she's like, I'm involved in this and I have a commitment to it. I said, well, then you better not have another late assignment.
Right. Exactly.
Otherwise you're out. And would I follow through with that? See, that's the thing.
Like, is there follow through? Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't follow through, then they don't respect you. And the next time you make a threat, then they think it's an empty threat. And they're like, whatever, she doesn't really mean it. Right.
Well, Vilma's asking me, how would I have punished myself as a teenager? See, here's the thing, Vilma. My parents, my dad especially, extremely harsh with the groundings. I mean, I would be, it wasn't a day. It wasn't a week. I was grounded solidly for months. Almost my entire freshman year, I was grounded because every time I got out, I'd mess up again. And when I say mess up, I was like 10 minutes late for curfew. And I've done a month. So it's not as if my parents were, too nice. But at the same time, smoking cigarettes, vaping, it is such a social thing that unless I was, and they were not going to do that, I wouldn't do that to my kid. You can never leave this house. Because that's not setting them up to make decisions, right? I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I don't know. And I'm being completely honest. I would just continue to talk to my kid about the fact that they're messing up really bad. And their future you is going to hate the decision you're making right now. Like, just stop it. But again, I know teenagers, like you could say it till you're blue in the face.
Yeah.
It sucks, but you would hope that they would know better. And I don't know if my parents could have done anything to prevent me from starting smoking. I really don't. It happened and it sucked, but I quit because I'm proud of myself. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely would pull what your mom did. I would rip to the side of the road.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, in a heartbeat.
March out.
Give me a reason. Give me a reason to embarrass you in front of your friends. Come on. And I don't even give it. I do not care. And like if my kid's like, not giving me a hug, I am the first woman to be like, I love you across the parking lot. I can give 2 shits. I don't even care. No, but if they're doing something that I've specifically told them not to do.
Yeah.
Oh, and I don't even think I'd have to say anything. My face would be like, oh, your butt is grass. Like, no. I just don't know if it would work. That's my problem. I just don't know if it would work. But anyways.
Lastly, you can add record-breaking jersey sales to baseball superstar Shohei Ohtani's record-breaking contract. Fanatics says Ohtani's new Los Angeles Dodgers jersey has broken its record for the highest sale within the first 48 hours of a release. Everybody wants it. Ohtani, who signed a 10-year deal worth 700 million bones with the Dodgers, will officially be introduced by the team at a news conference on Thursday. You can imagine under the Christmas tree, a lot of those Shohei Ohtani's jerseys will be opened this year.
You know, and did you see the headline today about why he didn't choose the Giants and chose the Dodgers?
What did he say? Why didn't he pick the Giants?
He says that because that the thinking is because of the crime in San Francisco. And I'm like, and like everything.
Doom loop. Yeah.
I'm like, and I'm sorry, LA is doing. I think he just wanted to be in LA. I think he's going to be like a Hollywood star in LA. You know what I mean? Like LA's LA, San Francisco, San Francisco.
Yeah.
I don't, I don't care about baseball that much. I get that the Giants really, really wanted him here.
Yeah.
He chose the Dodgers of all teams. If you were going to go to the Giants, God, can you stick the knife in a little harder for fans of the Giants? But whatever. Bye. Have fun in LA. I would eliminate. We have better air up here. I'll say that. Have fun with the smog. And they have homeless and crime too. So I'm not trying to knock California, but please give me a
Not that he can't afford to pay a PG&E bill, but at least he has that going for him.
Exactly. There you go.
This report is sponsored by you, which means we rely on you to help us fund the show. Thanks for finding us at thenikkimedoroshow.com. If you could also like and subscribe the show and even share it, it will help us grow the show as well. Click the thumbs up button, show your support, and we appreciate you. And that's the free way to support us. So we're grateful for that. Super Chat is live. You have seen some pop up, and we're grateful for any way that you can help us. So Doug, with your, is that 5 or 10?
That was a $5 super sticker. Thank you. And I lost all the other ones because I rebooted. So thank you to other people that did it as well.
Thank you to all the people.
Other people. Thank you.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Nikki Medoro Show.
It is. All right. We got about 15 minutes. So let's talk about sex, baby.
Yep.
Let's talk about you and me. And let's talk about putting out. All right. So do you know who Kristen Cavallari is, Kim McAllister?
Yes, I do, but I can't picture her face. She's a younger star, right?
Yeah, so she was on The OC, I think it was called. Was it The OC? Yeah, I think it was The OC. It's one of those reality TV shows that wasn't a reality TV stuff. She was also married to a football player. I forget his name. So anyways, she was doing this podcast. I'm going to play what she said first off. And then you guys tell me, was that, like, what do you think about this? So here she is.
How many dates till you sleep with a guy? I've been on this thing in the last 2 years maybe of being like, you should make him wait 3 or 4 dates. I don't think it fucking matters. It doesn't fucking matter if you sleep with him the first date or the 10th date. If there is chemistry and feelings there, it doesn't matter. I saw this relationship coach post 90% of couples who are in the best relationships where they found the one all slept together the first or second date. So I don't think it matters.
Okay, so she doesn't think it matters. Do you think it matters, Kim?
When she says there's feelings there, how do you know on the first date if there's feelings there? You don't know that person. You have no idea who they are.
Okay, I'm gonna be in a rom-com. He picks me up. We have a great dinner. The conversation flows like the wine. Okay, and then we go for a long walk. We are up until 3:00 in the morning sharing our life stories. And then he looks at me and he kisses me passionately. And I go, you want to come inside? I mean, that's how it happens.
So that's not, I don't think that's part of a relationship. I think that's scratching an itch. And there's a place for that. Maybe if you're interested in, having a one night stand or having just, again, scratching that itch, just having sex for the sake of having sex. Yeah. But that's not a building of a relationship, a getting to know the person. And so if you want to know the person and you want to build something and then, bring sex into it, I would say, I don't know what your point is. What's your point for dating? Is your point for dating just to, be a sexual being, or is your point for dating to really get to know someone, develop a relationship with them?
Okay, I'm going to throw it back to you though, what you just said, right? Which obviously I would say if you're serious and you want to be in a relationship, right? We're not talking about people that just want to do the deed. If you waited, you were not having sex with somebody, the conversation was great. You had so much similar things. And then you wait till whatever date, choose a number.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's lousy sex.
That's a bummer.
I wish I would have known 10 dates ago.
Could have
right?
weeded you out at the very beginning.
we could have saved a lot of money. We could have not had all these dinners and wine and all that
exactly.
stuff. I could have been talking to somebody else. I could have been swiping, Like that's my point is it does matter. And so how soon do you want to check the box of whether or not you have that sexual chemistry or not?
But having sex with someone also, I think, is about giving them your trust.
Right.
And so when you put yourself in the position to trust someone like that, and you're kind of at your most vulnerable moments and they see you in your most whatever.
Naked.
I just feel like you need to know them a little bit better than 1 date or 3 dates. That's what I'm saying.
Well, Kristen Cavallari is being slammed, but specifically because...
But hey, to each their own. Like, I don't judge her if she wants to.
Oh, exactly.
Date it.
And I think that's important. I'm glad you said that because look, if you're going to have sex, I was literally just talking to one of my old friends and she was talking about, she's single and she specifically said, she's like, oh no, I'm on to, I was horny and I needed, so I swipe it around, find somebody.
What you gotta do, right?
She's like, I know why I was going over there and I didn't knock it. I was like, as long as you're safe, obviously, right? Well, some of the responses to Kristen are like trash advice, respectfully. Another one says, this is absolutely the worst advice to give to young females, especially in today's society. So that's why you're divorced and still looking for someone at over 40 years old, which I think is crappy to say.
Yeah.
Another person says it's sad that she's giving this kind of advice when thousands of young women are looking up to her. And here's my thing. It's like, what was wrong with her advice? Because do you think that if the gender or whatever was reversed, the guys would be like, oh my God, how can you as a man say that it's okay to sleep with a woman on the first date? I have a hard time believing that anybody would be saying that if it was like a conversation between men. I just do. And I don't understand it. If we're talking about heterosexual relationships here and you're saying it's okay for a man to sleep with somebody on the first date, who's he sleeping with? A woman. So we're gonna say it's okay for the man, but not okay for the woman.
No, because historically, men are supposed to want to go sow their wild oats and have a different lady in their bed every night and, whatever. And women are supposed to focus on wanting the relationship, right? That's what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to be like your friend who just wants to go scratch their itch or wants to go do their horny thing. We're not supposed to want that. Well, why not?
Yeah.
If that's what you want, go for it. If what you want though is the relationship, is the getting to know someone, is the sex with a different component rather than just the physical, then I think you got to wait a little bit.
Eric says it depends on how you meet. Sometimes you chat online a hell of a lot before the first date.
Yeah.
We have an old colleague that her husband and her met on, I don't know, on Tinder, one of those. And they by the time, I feel like she said, by the time they actually met in person, they were already committed to each other.
Same with my husband and I. Yeah. We knew each other very well.
You guys knew each other so much that by the time you were actually physically together, you were already committed.
Right.
And that I have no experience with, but I can imagine without being physically in front of each other, it forces you in a good way to really get to know the person you're with.
That's right.
Natalie says, but also what is the history before the first date? Doesn't that matter? It's not like this is necessarily a blind date.
Right.
What if it is though?
When I think of a first date, like typically maybe someone asks you out that you don't know very well.
Right.
You meet somebody, they say, hey, let's go out and would you go on a date? Would you want to go have dinner with me or whatever? So then you go from a place where you met them, but you don't know them.
Right.
But if you were friends for a long time, if you already had a relationship with this person, if you knew them from work, if you knew them from wherever, that's a little bit different because you know what you're getting into, right?
A golf says, as a dude, I don't even kiss on the first date, particularly if I like her. Respect is the most, you better kiss me. Oh, I have to at least have a kiss. I kiss on the first date. Like, I'm not saying putting out on the first date, but I need to have a kiss.
Like, what happened? I thought it went really well.
Yeah. If you don't kiss me
and
we had a good date,
oh
no, you come to the door. I'll never forget this. Okay, quick story before the end of the show. This is how my husband got me. So I'll never forget this. till the day I die. So I found out that my husband, this is when we were teenagers. This is the first time we started dating. And I found out that he liked me. Mm-hmm. And there was a little bit of a controversy because other people liked him that I was friends with. Okay. And this one friend that liked my husband and I and him were all just hanging out. And he walks us both to the front door. And I liked him. He liked me. But we were trying to I don't know. And he just grabbed me and he laid the best kiss on me, like right in front of my friend, and like just looked at me. I could still see his face. I could still see, and he's like, "Good night," and I was just like melted. So no, a kiss is a kiss. I'll say a kiss is even more important than that sex. That first, if you're gonna continue a relationship with somebody, that kiss better be good. It better be good. And I don't even know how. And how do you even learn to be a good kisser? But he still my husband.
Are you still friends with that girl?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're not like daily friends, but yeah. I mean, she was very, 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 very. It was quite drama, but my husband and I don't mean to be a bit romantic here, but definite soulmates. Like we were meant to be together. I'm sorry, we just were. All right, that is our show. Stay here, Kim McAllister on the Mark Thompson Show, then the After Party Live. I have to start cooking something. I don't know what I'm gonna make. I gotta make something. I'm gonna make like a yummy appetizer. I have so many things saved. I'm gonna make something for tomorrow. I'll make a video of it today. Mm-hmm. I have to go Christmas shopping. I don't even know what the hell to get my husband. I got all kinds of stuff to do, people.
You have to tell you, I found a recipe on Facebook.
Okay.
And I forwarded it to my husband. Uh-huh. And I didn't expect him to make it. We had it for dinner the very day I sent it to him. And it's chicken pot pies, but they're made in your muffin tin.
Ooh.
So they're like little mini ones. I'll send you the recipe. It's pretty good.
I'm not much of a chicken pot pie person, but if it's easy peasy, I'm gonna do it. Was it easy? Because I like easy. I've been saving all kinds of recipes.
To make it with puff pastry, but he actually made the dough, so he made it harder.
Fancy, because your husband's all fancy. I ain't making the dough. So I'm the one that I don't have to.
Yeah, I'll send you the message.
All right. Well, our Friday show is tomorrow. So yeah, it should be a fun time. We'll talk about food and a bunch of other stuff I didn't get to today. You guys, please click the thumbs up button and sign up on our Patreon if you have not already. And if you could bump it up a few bucks, we would really appreciate it. We're completely crowdfunded and we depend on you. All right. Stay right here for the Mark Thompson Show. I love you guys. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.